Welcome back. This is still the Polity reaching you live from Abuja. I've been joined now in the studio by Seyi Olufemi. He's the insight lead at Dataphyte. He will be helping us break down the figures and the new unemployment rate as announced by the NBS. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you.
Yeah, pleasure.
All right. So I'm sure you're already aware. I mean, that's why we're here today. The NBS says unemployment rate has dropped from about 33% to a drastic 4.1%. And ideally, this should be good news. It should lead to joy and happiness. But there's skepticism. I'd like to get your, before we delve into the numbers specifically, what's your general thoughts hearing that news or seeing it? What was your first impression?
Yeah, I knew that it was not, unemployment reduces or increases for many reasons. Sometimes it's not just because some people have been fired, some people have been sacked. It might just be that some people who were not ready to work before, some people who were not willing to work before are now ready to work. So it's the methodology. So it could have been a result of the methodology. So when I saw it, I knew that it would have been an issue with the methodology. And then, so by the time I saw it, I could see that they had good intentions, but some of the changes they made were not very consistent with the reality. So I think that's why there's this buzz in town and about all over the social media that this is not reality. So, and I believe that for our own kind of work, it's very, very, we feel very, very inconvenient because statistics is what we use to work for policymakers. So when people begin to doubt statistics, especially official statistics, then we don't have anything to plan, we don't have anything to project into the future, then we can't measure anything about our lives, whether inflation, it could be any other thing. When people begin to doubt the meaning of those figures that you are churning out, it becomes an issue of concern, great concern. So that's my take. All
right, so maybe we can start to break it down. The NBS says it's adhering to global best practices. It has changed its old methodology and is using something new. I don't know if we can start from the old, if you have any, or, you know, what the transition, what really changed?
So, yeah, they are correct. Either to the NBS was using the 13th, they call it the 13 ICLS model questionnaire. That is, when they want to ask people, when they go around to do the sampling, it's not like they ask everyone in Nigeria. So they just do a sample of people. So the questions they ask people that make them classify people into whether they are employed, unemployed, underemployed, were different. So for instance, before they classified the working age population, because unemployment is not just everybody in this country, whether you are 10 years old or it's about the working age. So before it used to be 16 to 64, you get it now. Now, they have now changed that to say, no, we actually begin to work around 15, and some people continue to work beyond 64, 65 years, you get it now. So people like our dear president now will have been classified as unemployed, you know, not part of that, and he's working. So we want to be able to factor those people into, bring all of them together. So there are other changes, but I think where the problem really is, what really dropped the numbers, significantly, that method does something. So some of us can still understand that. We have always used the unemployment figures with caution all the while, because we know that this is what this means. You know the meaning of what you are handling. You get it now. So, but the issue, the major issue is that of when you ask someone, have you worked for 1 hour in the last 1 week? And the person says, yes, I worked for only 1 hour. He says, okay, you are employed. So that is where the problem is. Before, it used to be, if you worked for between 20 and 39 hours in a week. So if you didn't work up to that, so they might say, oh, you are unemployed. But now, even if it's 2 hours, even if it's just 5 hours in 7 days that you worked, you'll be classified. So when they now classified these people as employed, that was what made the unemployment figure to reduce drastically, so that the unemployed are those who did nothing, that did not even work for 1 hour, and that they're in the age bracket of 15 and 100, and as long as people are alive. So those are the people now. So it's shrinked the population of those who are either who have either worked less than an hour, or were not willing to work. So those are the 4.1%. So they're saying that if you have 100 Nigerians, 100 Nigerians between the age of 15 and above 120 to 200 years, 15 and this. So you will see only 4 people who have not worked for 1 hour, and who are ready to work, but they couldn't get a job. They are ready to work, but they couldn't get a job, and even if they worked at all, they've not worked up to 1 hour. Every other person that is looking for a job and has gotten a job above that, they are assumed to have been employed. So that is where the real problem is. Even the other methodologies too, of course, increases it, because when you now factor our president, who is about 70 and above, and most of the ministers, most of our politicians, now they are now part of the, so that has increased employment figure and has reduced the unemployment. You get what I'm saying now? So, but the key one is that's how reduce to any work at all within the last 7 days. So some people feel that is not work. Working for 1 hour isn't work.
It's interesting, some persons will say the government has been worrying about policies to solve unemployment, so all they needed to do was tweak the numbers. But we'll get to that. I really want to know about how this affects policy. But before we get to that, like the NBS said, and you've confirmed, they were adhering to best practices. So one might wonder, why is this global best practice? Why is this really how it is everywhere else? Because the NBS also said other nations are adhering to it. Is it really everywhere else 1 hour in the last couple of weeks? Is that what everyone is using? If that is so, why?
Why? Okay,
yes.
Yeah. So I think NBS is a partner to Dataphyte. So I could play a devil's advocate, but at the same time, we have to make things very, very plain. I think I saw a tweet by the former NBS director. Yemi Kale was talking about something about statistics that, and he was talking about making statistics to be as sacred as possible, so that we don't make it say what it isn't saying. Now, when you say you want to work with global best practices, like I said, I work with these statistics. I know that when I see what I see, I know the meaning of what I see, and it has been all the while. This thing they are updating now, the methodology has been since 2013. So it's not something people are not aware of. It's just that we decided that no, we don't want to define unemployment in our own climate this way. We are okay with other things, but this is our own definition. This is what we assume in our own, that if for us here, we believe that someone must be employed sufficiently for about these hours in a week, and of course for a month, before the person can get at least sufficient money to be safe to say that, you are working and you should earn money. Now, there is no such thing like global best practice. There is something like best practices, but you adapt it to your own climate. And let me give you an example. One of the, I studied that document, this new release, the NBS document, and it's interesting. They were comparing us with Niger, I think 4 or 5 countries in West Africa. And unfortunately, they were placing their own unemployment rates using this 19th ICLS. They were using it and comparing with ours, so that we see that it's now comparable. 5.1, I think, for Niger. I think we are 4.1 as at the first quarter of 2023. Now, the thing is this: they gave us their unemployment rate together with their corresponding poverty rates. You get my point? Because like we put out something over the weekend about work and poverty. All over the world, we know that work and poverty, work and prosperity are interlinked. The answer to poverty is work, isn't it? Unemployment just means people are going to be poor. There's something called working poor, but that's not, apart from that, we know that the more people are not able to work, the more the poverty. So they are linked. So now, look at this. When you are comparing things, there's something called, for instance, if you're talking about cost of living now, there's something called the purchasing power parity. This same NBS, there is this, the Nigerian poverty measurements. Now, all over the world, the global standard is that someone is considered poor if they are living below $2.15 per day. Are you getting that? $2.15 per day. Nigeria fixes its own at, I think, 376 naira per day.
Naira or dollars?
Naira per day. Oh. That is our own poverty line. So the international poverty line is $2.15 per day. Now Nigeria says, no, that's too much for us. We can survive. If someone is still surviving on 376 naira per day, the person is still not, if you still have up to that, you are not poor per day. Now, when you convert 376 naira to a dollar, how much is that? That's less than 50 cents. That's just about half a dollar. You get it now? So there is, each country has their own poverty line, but there is the international poverty line. If you want to measure Nigeria's poverty, for that $0.5 that we are using now, we say, okay, the poverty rate in Nigeria is, monetary poverty rate is 40.1%. I think for child one, I think it's about 47.1%. But if you want to use the $2.15, you will see that the poverty rate will just balloon. You might have almost 80% that are poor. So this same MPS that is using that, determining that line, that 376 naira is okay for a Nigerian to survive in a day. So if we have that understanding, if we can deviate from, in the US that they are comparing themselves with, in the US it is over $24 per day. When someone lives below $24 per day in the US, the person is seen as poor. But all over the world, globally, it is 2.15. Nigeria is doing 0.5. So you are not changing the way you are measuring poverty. But why are you changing that of the way you measure unemployment? Because this is it. If you reduce man-hour, if you reduce man-hour, for instance, if you reduce the amount of hours you put to work, what's going to happen to your income? It's going to reduce. So you're going to have more poverty. So what we are trying to do is we are shifting the goalposts during the match. You are still saying that you maintain that people will, so when the government wants to have a policy response to poverty, to unemployment, what they will say is that, no, we don't have as many poor people in Nigeria. But because you have tampered with, you have tweaked the unemployment stuff, it will be looking as if, yes, we have more employed people and nothing has happened. We don't have as much poor people. So if you want to do this, then do the other one. Do the other one. So so that is my own position. That's how I see it, and I think that's my own position, and I think that's the worry of many, even big statisticians. I think Dr. Yemi Khaled, the just immediate past, was showing his reservations. He didn't say anything. He's a professional. So, but he just showed his reservation by saying, let's be careful. Let's not, I don't mind. I don't mind if you say that's how you want to define it. I know what to do when I'm interpreting the data. But the common man, when they begin to see that, they will just tell you inflation is fake. Number of these, numbers will now become useless. And for us, the moment people don't work with data again, then nothing, we can't measure anything, nothing can stand again. So I think we have to be very careful. Or I think another thing is that the NBS probably they did not do insufficient, what's this work? Media information. So probably they should have said, we are trying to do this, we are trying to do that. This is now the new understanding of this and that. And the shocking way, the surprising way they did it, probably that's what made people to become a why. But if they had prepared their minds that we want to change the way we talk about this, and this is what it will mean. We don't mean this, we don't mean that. Some will even tell you, this is the old, if going by the old method, this is the amount of. So I would have loved to see something like, if it was the old method, we will have, instead of 4.1, the new method is 4.1, then tell me the old method is 34%, from 33 to 34, but new method is this. You can do that maybe for about a year or two before people now get used to these one. But you just stopped measuring that, or you measured it and you didn't disclose that. So probably that could help them, because the NBS is just the only organization that we can really rely on their data.
All right, that's fair enough when you break it down. But let's still on the methodology. For the average man, like you said, people who are not statisticians or who might not know about numbers, there's always debate about sample size. If you recall, just during the campaign period to the elections, we had different bodies bringing out polls, and people were criticizing each other's polls. Some people said that sample size is too small. Some even said this sample size is too big. It shouldn't be that big. So we have, the NBS says 35,520 households, I believe.
Yeah.
What do you say about that number? Because people are wondering, is this number, is it adequate for tens of millions of Nigerians all over the country?
Yeah. What I know that it is sufficient. It depends on, it's not just the number. It's also, I'm trying to remember my formula now. And for this long, I've known that their methodology, NBS methodology, is consistent with what statistical theory dictates. So it is not, what could be defective is the sampling. What happened during the election was problems of sampling, not even necessarily numbers. Numbers should have something adequate to be able to predict, but is it the sampling? You get it now. So I might just sample 10 or 20 people, but who are the people I'm sampling? Where are they in Abuja, for instance? And I'm able to give you a feel of what's going on. But it depends, who am I talking to? Are they educated people? Are they not educated people? Are they in the village? Are they in the urban areas? So those are the things that affect sampling. Even if I want to be fair to them, this sample is even higher than the former sample. Before it was, let me see my figure, it was 33,000 or something before. I think it was 33,300 households before that they were measuring quarterly. Now it is 35,520. So there's an improvement. So even if you have a problem with the number, the N of the sample, this is better than before. So there are good things that we understand. It's just the key thing that makes us not to be able to defend everything here, to say, no, it's okay. It's just that the way we changed. We are saying 1 hour in a week, you regard that person as employed, if that person has done 1 hour a week. I think that's just where I believe the older wisdom was better in that sense. Every other thing, I think I go with what they have done.
All right, that's fair enough. I want to read a quote here from the Minister of Finance, former Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed. As regards the National Development Plan. And this question goes to the issue of policy making with statistics and with numbers. I'll just read this little quote. This implies, she was taking a look at the National Development Plan, this implies that unemployment will drop significantly to 6.3% in 2050 from 33.3% in 2020. Sorry, I had to chuckle there. The issue now is that this plan was made to get unemployment in 2050 to 6.3%. Now, unemployment is at 4.1%. So as a policymaker, do you think, because you mentioned about the average person, I'm more worried about the elite, the person planning that says, well, I was going to do this before, but look at our unemployment rates. I don't need to do that anymore. So I'm wondering, what impact does this have? Or is this you mentioned something about using the old methodology. Do they need to revise this number with the new methodology to know where we're actually headed?
We headed,
you know. So how, I just want to know, at the end of the day, how do these numbers affect policy making if things are now so drastically better?
Not better, but painted to be better.
Yes.
In changing the scales, changing the calibration of the scale. So it's concerning. If that's why I said that it's about the honesty behind it. And that's why I said, if I want to suggest, to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with you changing anything. Give me so if for measurement purposes, we do these things in statistics. For measurement purposes, there's something called purchasing power parity. I can compare the standard of living in America with also standard of living here is higher than this. So if someone is earning 200,000 naira, for instance, in maybe a place like Oshobo or something in Osun State, maybe a village, and is earning 200,000, the person might be able to afford maybe a duplex of maybe 100,000. Whereas in Maitama, that same duplex might be going for maybe 3-5 million for rent. You see what it's the same. It might be the same bill. What I would suggest is this, because it will really affect policy if we are not sincere with this. Like I said, what I suggest is that let's have the whole continue.
All right, Mr. Olufemi, just hold that thought for a moment, that suggestion. We'll go on a quick break now. When we return, the policy continues. All right, we'll be right back shortly. Stay with us.
PMS consumption, so that this can be, for now, that data does not exist anywhere. We do not believe it exists.
To discharge his responsibility. That is in the form of an amendment to the NATI Act to schedule NATI with powers to take disciplinary actions against offenders, also empowering NATI to investigate offenses and recommend the prosecution of offenders by relevant investigative and prosecutory agencies of the government.
Drawn from the Nigerian Military, Department of State Services, Nigerian Police and Ministry of Education are security experts to train 92 instructors.
Welcome back. We're still on the topic of the new NBS unemployment rate, 4.1% in the first quarter of 2023. I'm still in the studio here with Mr. Seyi Olufemi, the insight lead at Dataphyte. All right, we'll start off from where we were. You were making a recommendation as to how you should go.
So for planning purposes, for trend analysis, for the sake of trend analysis, I'll suggest that they keep up with this if it's so important, especially the every other thing. I'm fine with every other thing, especially this 1 hour thing, this 1 hour thing. So they can keep up with that. But for continuity purposes, it will be fine if they can also give us what it will have been if it were the old method, so that for this you talked about, for this NDPU plan, we can see the trend and see how close we are to that 6.1% at that time, and see the difference. Even when we are comparing, for instance, GDP figures, when we are comparing price figures, there's something called real GDP. There is a nominal GDP, which says, last year, for instance, my salary last year was 100,000. In 1980, it was probably 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. If you say, your salary is increasing every year. So, but we say, okay, if you draw it, it will look like, your life is improving. But what is the cost of things? What So the price of $1 then, is it the price of $1 now? So we factor a lot of things and say, okay, that's not the real GDP. So we now factor it based on the inflation rate across those years, the price index. Now, what I would suggest is that let them give us that for continuity's sake, for us to measure real measurement for planning purposes. If we go by this, we're going to put ourselves in trouble. We are really battling with unemployment. There is youth restiveness. There is insecurity all around. We shouldn't play with it. It's not something we toy with. It's not a propaganda thing. When you want to do other things, you can do other things. I can say, no, this person is more handsome than this person is more beautiful. We can do all of that. We can play with that. We don't play with certain things. Unemployment, poverty, statistics. We don't mislead ourselves. We don't deceive ourselves with things like poverty with things like unemployment. We don't deceive ourselves, because the things will be there. So I would suggest that let us see what it will have looked like if it was the old method and what it is. The same way we see what it will look like if we calculate poverty rate by 2.15 and what it will look like, what we say it is when we are looking at about $0.5, about 376 naira per day. You know, it will look shameful if you tell an American that you can live on 370, about $0.5 in a day. The person will say, wow, is that person not dead? You get what I'm saying? So if we can do that, let us also do this. Let's have both. Let's have the international, the same way we have the international for poverty measurement, and we have the local, the national, our own national line. Let's have the international for unemployment, and let's have the local measurement for unemployment. That's my suggestion. I think we will all be fine that way, and to show that we are honest about our intentions. We are just doing a professional job. There is no propaganda. There is no politicization of statistics in this whole matter.
That's fair enough. I want to delve into that issue, the one you said you have an issue with, which is the 1 hour in a week. The report says 73.6% to 76.7% of working age Nigerians were employed because they did more than 1 hour paid work. So I don't know if we can delve into this. I read sort of a response to this whole issue by Tokwe Fashua, where he started to bring in some narratives about the young population and what they're into these days. Interestingly, as we speak, there's a debate going on online now about tech work or tech jobs and internet fraud, and how one seems more accessible in the country than the other, and it is raging anyway. But what the suggestions are that we have more content creators, we have more tech tech persons in the country, and that, take for instance, a tech person working 1 hour in a week is probably enough to keep him, it's substantial. But that if you take a menial job, someone who just does house-to-house work, and that 1 hour that he worked wouldn't be enough to actually cater for him. So the question is, when people bring in these new narratives that there's technology, people are working from home, people just have to do little work, they make big money, the world has become a global village, you don't have to go to the office, and that these are the things, that make this new report seem fair enough. I don't know, what do you make about that dynamic when people bring it in?
Tokwe Fashua is someone I'll say Egbon, Tokwe Fashua, but if I sit with him, he understands these things he has clear understanding of these things. It depends. Like I said, if I want to play a devil's advocate for NBS, I could do that. I could change this whole narrative, but I have to be very sincere. And that's why I've said, I don't care whether you say one hour can fetch you something more than. When NBS is doing this sampling, they factor all these things into it. You don't bring them in. They're already in this. Even if they use the former methodology, all of these things are being factored into it. You get what I'm saying? So we are not. So in one breath, they're saying, no, don't talk about income. We are just talking about unemployment. Don't talk about income. In another breath, you are bringing income. That so if the 1 hour, I want to assume that if Dangote works for 1 second, what he earns per second is okay to survive now. So that's not what we are saying here. So you don't start changing things during the game. You can always change your pitch, change where the goalpost is, but let it be after the game, after all of this is done. So I don't accept. Yes, I know these variations they exist, but I still insist that if we are going to count it this way, let's change every other thing that this might speak to. When NBS was comparing this, they put poverty rate together with unemployment. You get it? So they go hand in hand. These are not things we toy with. Whether we can say whatever we want to say, but we know deep within us that we cannot change one thing and leave the other. what is what I will say. I say it again. If you want to change all of that, for me, if I want to, I'm a policy planner, I will say, okay, because I know that work and prosperity, work and poverty, like the data that we had over the weekend says, the Yoruba people will say, Ishe logun Ishe. Work is the cure for poverty. Work is the bridge to prosperity. You get it now? So if you are saying that you want to change the way you measure, you want to reduce the hour of work, 1 hour could be okay. Yeah, 1 hour could be okay. All right, because it's international. That's the only thing. You said it's international. Then let's move to 2.15. When the international moves to 3.15, so that even though people are doing their work for one hour or more and all of that, then I can also still see how many people are poor. Then I can know how I won't be dealing with 40.1% monetary poverty rate. I'll be dealing with 80% monetary poverty rate. So if you are changing this, change the other things too. So that's just what I think we should be fair to ourselves. Or you maintain this, just like I repeat again, we have the international poverty line. We have the national poverty line. Isn't it? There's no problem with that. Give us also the international, you have given us the international unemployment unemployment rate by the international methodology, the ILO. Give us also our own local wisdom of measuring. Give us that one too. So especially for trend analysis, so that we will not be saying this thing has dropped from 33%. We are lying. That's self-deception. You get it? That's self-deception. If I God forbid that I say that, I don't know how I will report these things. I don't know how I would say it. I don't know how I would say it, but I would have said new one. So by the time a time will come, we'll be able to almost harmonize these things. But at least for all these plans that we have, all these 5-year plans, 10-year plans, development plans, we'll still be able to use this and measure it. We all pray that unemployment reduces. Nobody is happy that it's increasing. It's our prayer. But let's also be able to measure, is it decreasing or is it increasing? Let's have both. I pray, I plead. I believe the questionnaire probably, even if they've changed the questionnaire, probably they also questioned, they also questioned people based on the other one. Let them just release it. With inflation here, there are fewer, one of the good things I like is that there's less traffic. What does that tell you? That people are buying less fuel. Because if you had more vehicles on the road, that means you have more people. They use fuel, isn't it? I think even the president's special advisor on media showed us some slides from NNPC that daily petroleum consumption has fallen to I think 45 something from those big figures we used to hear before. What does that tell you? It means that the income per day of filling stations, okay, it probably did not reduce because it's a higher price. But some people that were supposed to be on their way, so here and there, they are not doing some business. So these things, inflation and all of this, is going to have an effect on unemployment. The atmosphere, the economic environment is going to have an adverse effect on unemployment. I dare that they show us, because I know NBS is very honest. I know it takes, if you're a statistician, the way figures are sacred to you, just like your father's name. It's like somebody calling your father this. You might almost die because somebody called you a bastard. It's just like that. You see figures as God, as almost like God. This is what determines my fate in life. So, if they show us, let them show us what that is. We don't have a problem. Even if I want to see what it will have been like today. With all of this that has happened, we should be able to, so that we can predict, so that economic students, I have people, economic students who are writing their thesis, they'll be able to say, what's the effect of, for instance, you are doing your thesis and you want to say, what's the effect of subsidy removal on inflation, unemployment. You're going to do your econometric model, and you're going to, for it to be a standard model, you are going to put all of this stuff into your model. So by the time you now use 33% to 5.1% to 4.1%, you're going to be getting very, very wrong measurements. You get estimation of your model, except you have the local knowledge. Maybe somebody is doing this research. This is 2023, in 2035, and is using a long-range trend data, and it is not aware of what we know now, that you can't rely on this unemployment something. In fact, what we used to do is that we'll talk about adjustments. We'll say, let's adjust it to what it will have been from what they'll say, use 2010 prices when you are talking about GDP, real GDP. So by the time you are doing this, that student of economics, that student of policy, and that development student that is trying to measure and to be able to advise and add to the body of knowledge, if he uses this, we're going to be getting wrong results. We're going to be having wrong expectations, wrong conclusions. So it is important, I beg, let us have the international, as we say, let us have the local, at least for a very long period for these plans that we have, 2050 plans, for us to be able to measure our real, true progress. We have monetary poverty. We have multidimensional poverty. We have different things like that. I believe NBS can do it. They've been doing this before. Let them ask 2 sets of questions. Have you worked within the last 1 hour, write the number of people down. The former one, 20 to 39, write it down. Then there's no problem. And the NBS is doing a great job. In fact, all the other things, the adjustment they made, they are fine. They are fine. But it's just this problem of trend analysis that it becomes problematic. How will I work with unemployment data? I don't know what to do with it now. I don't know how I'm going to write. We still have to sit down and say, how are we going to be doing it next?
What if all those other changes are made? If the methodology is now or similar is being applied to, like you said, poverty and employment, if it starts happening,
very good. So very good. It will give us a different picture, and for the policy. So now we'll be able to see. It's like you are balancing the weights. You get it now. So for policy, I don't mind that if I'm dealing with if you're a president or a governor or a local government chairman, we usually talk about the presidents, but the real problems are the grassroots, with the governors, with the local government, the councils. Many people are interested in their council chairman overseas than even the president, because they know the council determines what happens to me. If I'm living here around here, it is how this place is that matters to me more than how it happens all over in Onitsha. I'm not there, so it is how it happens in my locality. So, like I said, if that happens, if the council or the state is seeing the figures, it's okay. This is how we measure unemployment now. But see, this is the number of poor people that we have. It's not 40.1, it's 90.1. So 9 out of 10 people are poor in this country. So you see that the same response you will have making believe that it is 4.1 unemployment. If that one makes you to believe that you should relax, this poverty figure will tell you don't relax. So at the end of the day, you do things that will still balance this 4.1 unemployment and make it much better. So, but if you keep this low and say just 4 people out of 10 that are poor, and you say we have everybody employed, that means about 96%, over 9 in 10. That is 96 out of 100 people in Nigeria that are of working age are employed. That's what we are saying. That is not almost impossible to say. I know many people that are not doing nothing. I know people that we place on stipends, and we don't have a social welfare. People who are telling you these things, there is social welfare. They are telling you that if you just did 1 hour and you are ready to work, and there is something that comes into these people's mind. Here, you have to be services on people so that they don't get into crime. We know the number of people that we to calm them down, just until you get a job. This goes into your account. Doing that as just local initiative. We don't have governments that do that. So that's why I said you don't import snow from Canada because you want to do winter sport in Nigeria. That may not be very wise. You understand? Even though it's what they do there, but that may not, and you now destroy. So it's okay if you do that, but you don't destroy our pitches where we play our football, because that is what is our reality here. So even if you want to bring that thing here, Let us know what it means to us. But probably, if you do that, probably we might still be able to see the reality. So that's why we're just talking about the reality. If you do this, the poverty rate will show me the reality. So change it too. So I was just using that to kind of a little counterbalance. But the best for me, it will have been that let us see what it was. The way we measured it yesterday, let's measure it today like that. Let's see how it is for cross-sectional comparisons.
All right, that's fair enough. The recommendations I believe are fair and justiciable. But I like while I have you here, you are in the field. I'd just like to get your opinion on something a bit related, which is, as we speak, how much or to what extent do you think our policymakers are even making use of numbers at the moment? Because from what you described, you would think that when anyone comes into office or thereabouts, they look at the numbers, they make plans, they follow the plan, and that's just it. But I'm wondering, do you think that is what is obtainable today?
That's I always avoid that, even in our write-ups, in whatever we do in Dataphyte. That looks like a value judgment. It looks like a subjective question. So that's why we said it's 2 plus 2. Nobody argues with 2 plus 2. And why I'm concerned is because somebody is trying to give me problem when I'm working. Because I don't know how to compare 33% with 4.5. I don't know how to do. So that's why. Otherwise, I don't care. Well, I will assume that they see. We have a president that I think it was Seyi Olufemi that was sitting with the former president and was throwing out the figures. Inflation is this, poverty is this, and the president said, "I don't know all those ones. Go to the farm." So probably that can answer your question. I'm just citing, so I didn't say anything. I'm just saying that probably this is how people look at it. But probably we have some people that they want them to tell you what they want to hear. This is very, very if I'm the president and I'm not, but I think this current president, I think they know the meaning of these things. So, but probably I don't want us to use figures to mislead them. Probably if they see these things, they see the truth before them. They say, I don't want to call it truth, the facts before them, the honest facts. Probably they will still be able to respond better. Governance is difficult. I have a little government in my home, just about 4 or 5 people, and I know it's very, very difficult to govern even my home. It takes a lot of wisdom and all of that. So I don't usually want to talk about the government.
All right, so let's just end this note. Your advice to the policymakers we've been talking about. Because for you're saying it's making your job difficult.
Yeah, it's making.
What's your advice to them? Looking at the numbers, how do you think they should proceed, and so that things are a little bit balanced?
What I pray for, if I can go on my knees, is that let's have the former running. It doesn't cost them anything to just ask the extra question. No, I don't think they don't have that. I think they know better. They are statisticians. NBS is a great place. You have very, very knowledgeable people there. You get what I'm saying? I'm not sure they didn't ask that question, the former question. This one is just an extra layer of question. Just an extra question. But in case they didn't have it, in case they didn't do it, the next quarter that we're going to have, even though we missed a quarter, a lot of statistics were missing during COVID, we couldn't, so we just see Q1, Q4, it happened all over the world because people could not go out to get quality data the way they used to do it before. I will pray and I will beg the NBS. They are professionals. Let them give us, if they missed it in this one, let's assume they didn't do it, for posterity purposes, for planning purposes, for statistics purposes, for the integrity of data purposes, the next questionnaire, let them maintain that and add this new imported international one, add it to it. Let me see the international and be seeing the local, because it appears Nigerians are work people. In this current one, no Nigerian youth will be called lazy. You see, our president didn't like the youth that because they said they were lazy. That was when they were still working. But now nobody is lazy in Nigeria then. Do you see? So we are work people. That's our ethics. That's our ethics. That's our tradition. We don't like people who are lazy here. So let's interpret reality. Let's interpret figures based on our reality, what it means to us. You get it? Just like I said, we have different ways we measure all over the world. But there will be the international one. International just give you like an average. It is not sacrosanct. It is not it's not like this is the best. We internationally, they put it at 2.15. US is doing 24. You get it. Ethiopia is over. We are saying this. So it's not sacrosanct. It's not holy. It's not something like God said this is what it ought to be. You understand? This methodology has been there all the while. It's not new. There's nothing new about it. So even if you want to do it for some very good purposes, let's maintain the other one too. Let's put it side by side. That's simple.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Oluseyi. It's been great the way you broke it down and simplified it so that everyone out there can understand what's going on. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Amadine.
Thank you.
And
all right, that's all we'll take on this segment. We'll bring to you now some reports. When we return, the Polity continues. Stay with us. We'll be right back.